So what are you saying then about Jim Gavin, who does not have any political background?
Look, Jim's a good guy. I know Jim well. I knew him going back to when I was Transport Minister and he was in the Irish Aviation Authority, know him from Dublin GAA. I know that he's the kind of guy that no matter what task or job he's given, he'll double down on it and do a good job. So I have nothing negative to say about him, but inevitably he's going to rely very much on the advice of civil servants and officials when it comes to his constitutional functions and tasks, at least for the first couple of years. And that's not optimum, but it can be fine.
The book, again, there's obviously a lot of references to your partner Matt in it, but yet you hold back as well. We don't really find out much about the early stages of the relationship and so on. It kind of jumps over that. Is that deliberate? Is that just because that's personal to you and you don't want to talk about it, or what's the rationale there?
Yeah, I guess probably because it's just personal.
Yeah, we don't really find out like where did you meet, what were the first dates, stuff like that. Like Yeah. Deliberate. So it's deliberate. Yeah. It's
that's deliberate. Yeah,
it's not sin by omission. Like it's just you're deliberately not going there. And that.
Do you really want to know about my first date?
No, go on. Yeah.
We first met in Ford Dame Lane nightclub.
Okay.
It was a club night. I think it was a May bank holiday.
Yeah.
And we just kind of met on the stairwell and very luckily exchanged numbers.
Okay.
And then I went off on a holiday to Sitges. It was the August bank holiday actually, after the referendum.
Okay.
And then I went off on a holiday to Sitges and just kind of texted him from the beach and met up for a date. And it was first date was the rooftop bar in the Marker, and the second one was the Dublin Mayo match. I took him to the semi-final.
Okay, and Dublin obviously won that day.
Yeah.
Until the one ever since.
You're aware of this issue.
Yes. The
a great thing about being former Taoiseach is the GAA still invite you to the All Ireland, which is great and very kind. Lots of people forget you exist very quickly. But the GAA don't do that. So one of my ambitions is to bring Matt to an All Ireland to actually see Mayo win before the two of us die.
Good luck with that. Because the assumption was always you're a doctor, he's a doctor, therefore you met through mutual doctor friends or stuff like that. But no, it was more a bump into each other in a nightclub kind of scenario.
That's actually half true because the reason why I got talking to him in the nightclub that night was he was there with a group of doctors, and
you knew some of them.
I was the Minister of Health, and they were sort of keen to have a chat with me, and that's how we got
so you didn't know them, but they weren't mutual friends, but they knew who you were, and you knew who they were, and so on. That's obviously life.
Didn't want to make the book too long, so.
Huh?
Didn't want to make the book too long.
No. We were just. It was just noticeable. I was when I was reading that, I was going. He's deliberately not.
We didn't meet. We didn't meet online, although I know that's fairly normal these days.
Yeah. So it was a traditional bump into each other in a nightclub, which actually it is. There's a lot of discussion nowadays. Actually, the decline of the nightclub industry will remove a lot of that for a lot of people.
And I think a lot of that's just the world has changed.
And,
younger people drink less and they're online a lot, and that's how they meet. You don't need to go to Coppers and have a few pints. Some courage and talk to somebody anymore. You can do it all on Tinder or whatever.
You refer at one point to people taking photographs of you. They're doing it and they think they're doing it sneakily. You do go into that in detail in the nightclub kiss incident, and you detail that.
Or snog-gate is the name.
Snog-gate,
according to the Guardian.
And Owen Jones in the Guardian picks up on it, and you talk about it being the nightclub you're in being a safe space, and you felt this was intrusive. Other perspectives have been put forward in that, though. Let me ask you about. I don't know. Did you read Donald Lynch, Sunday Independent columnist, last week? He writes a lot about the LGBT QI plus community, and his take of it was Owen Jones, the Guardian columnist, and Leo show that after millennia of being shamed just for who they are, gay people can now get away with stuff that would have their straight counterparts issuing grovelling apologies. Can you imagine if Simon Harris, as an example, was caught in a nightclub snogging some young one who wasn't his wife? How do you respond to that?
Yeah, look, I think it depends on the country in some ways. Like, one of the things that I feel I'm very, very lucky about is that I'm in a country where people largely want relationships to be between the two people involved and respect people's privacy and family. You know, you see in the UK where it's totally different. Journalists turn up on the front doors of people's private homes looking for interviews. And I know that would have been covered very differently in the UK and probably in the US. Not in France or Spain. You know, it does depend on the country. And I think Ireland is a country where people accept that relationships are between the two people involved. You know, we've had a Taoiseach who was separated and had a number of different girlfriends. And I mentioned how actually in some ways, and that's birth to her, and that difference was helpful for me in terms of paving the way towards a different type of relationship in the top job. We know obviously about Charlie Haughey. I don't think any of them were ashamed or told that they couldn't hold the Taoiseach's office. So I disagree with that assessment. I understand where it comes from though, and there are people in the LGBT community who are worried about the backlash against us at the moment. And one of the things we will discuss about more often in private than in public is we need to be careful that we don't always demand that we be celebrated. And I know some people see that is what pride is. I don't agree with that, but it's something we have to bear in mind.
Are we going to see you in Brussels or Washington or New York or Frankfurt or wherever in the future? I
don't think so, and I don't see how that would arise. You know, I can imagine the kind of roles that you're talking about. They're the ones you tend to go from government into. It's unusual for somebody to reappear after 4 or 5 or 10 years out of office into one of those roles. It's not impossible. So I don't think so, but I never rule anything out other than running for election again. I don't particularly want to. So let me just round off on that one. So 2032 presidential election or beyond? No, it's not on my radar. And I had this conversation with Sarah Mead, who I think you'll probably remember. She works in New York now, but she was my deputy press secretary for years, and somebody who's great fun as well. And I met her in New York a few weeks after I stepped down. And we had this conversation, and she said, no, you have to look forward, don't look back. And I thought that was really good advice, because I know if I have something like maybe running for president on the radar or running for the European Parliament or something like that, that will actually affect what I say. I'll be thinking, don't say that, how that might look in the future. And it'll also affect, you know, potential opportunities that I may or may not turn down. So I've kind of cancelled the thought of ever running for election again from my mind in order to allow me to look forward and not back.
And concentrate on actual life rather than political life, which is altogether two different things. At the end of the day, are there regrets from politics? And what's the biggest one?
Oh yeah, like my biggest regret is not taking a few more risks. I think particularly one thing I recount in the book is the fact that on 3 occasions the economy bounced back way quicker than I thought the experts thought it would after the crash, after the pandemic, and then the economic hit from Brexit was not as great as we feared it would be. And I think we could have ramped up spending quicker, particularly on infrastructure, on things like housing, for example, on things like transport. It's not that those problems would have been solved just by spending more sooner, but I think they wouldn't be as bad as they are now. And I did push at times, you know, for a bigger tax package or for bigger increases in capital spending. But if I knew now if I knew then what I knew now, I think a lot of the decisions that were made, particularly around capital investment, around housing, might have been made 2 or 3 years earlier, and we would have had better results by now.